Through years and years of trial and error, countless guidelines for creating music were formed, and they're there for good reason, because if you don't play by these rules, your music will sound rather strange. I found myself wondering what it would sound like if we threw some of these things that we take for granted to the wind. So today, I'm going to be making music that defies all typical expectation. To start off, let's take a melody we all know and love. Here's my basic rendition of Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. There we have the melody played as plainly as possible. The chords are the obvious choices, and the bass and drums are laying down a standard rhythm. Before we can start messing with it, we need to look at what defines this song. First, we have the melody played on guitar. That's the main line sung over top, the star of the show, the part that typically goes, "Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are." Then we have the harmony, which provides the landscape the melody sits on top of. This role was fulfilled by the chords I played on piano, a chord being multiple notes played at the same time. Well, one of the key components of music is creating a togetherness between the melody and the harmony. Without that, it'll sound disjointed and wrong. One of the easiest ways to create this coherent relationship is by building the melody and the harmony from the same set of notes. This set of notes is called the key. Our key for this song is C major. All of my notes in this song are going to be one of those 7 different notes. To further create synchronization between the harmony and melody, I'll make sure that the chord I'm playing contains the melody note within it. This is the common expectation, but we're going to flip this around. Let's see what it sounds like when we take chords from the same key as the melody that don't contain the melody note within them. Definitely a little bit weirder than it was before. To my ear, it sounds like the melody and harmony are set in the same place, but they're trying to tell a different story. Moving on, let's reset our song back to the original version. Again, here we have 3 different chords, C, F, and G. But how do we pick which notes to put in these chords? To build a chord, we pick any note in our key. That becomes the root note, which is the foundation our entire chord is built off of. Once we have the root, we skip the next note in the scale, add the following note, skip the next note, and add the following note as well. These 3 notes give us what's called a triad, which is the most common type of chord we'll come across. We can repeat this process with any note in the key. But due to the nature of this video, what if we wanted to get weird with it? Instead of taking the root, the 3rd note, and the 5th note to make our chord, what if we took the root, the 2nd note, and the 7th note? This is what Twinkle Twinkle Little Star would sound like with those new chords. Pretty wacky, some moments work better than others, and there's good reason for that. We need to be careful with how the melody interacts with the new notes in these new chords. See, if 2 notes are too close together in pitch, when played together they will sound gritty and harsh. Before, when all of our melody notes were already contained within the chords, we never had to worry about this. With these new notes, we need to be aware of how close they are to the melody notes, lest we risk sounding too dissonant, unless that happens to be the intended desire. Let's move on to something different here. Focus your attention now on the bass guitar and the role of that instrument. The bass will usually be holding down the fort by outlining the root note. In the examples so far, I've simply been playing the root as the chord comes along. This is what's commonly expected, but what happens if I play a different note of the chord with my bass part? Let's find out. Sounds a little odd at points, but not overly offensive to my ear. This is because our ear will instinctively perceive the lowest pitch as the root note. The bass note that I'm playing becomes the new home bass, and we kind of hear the entire thing as a different chord. Now what if we totally flipped around the role of the bass? So far it's been laying down the low note foundation while the guitar plays the melody over top. What if now we had the guitar playing the bass part and the bass playing the melody? Kind of cool to hear the bass part playing the melody. My problem though is it gets hidden and it's tough to hear. And while the guitar part is an interesting layer, it doesn't anchor down the song the way it would if it were played on the bass. Now let's move over to some rhythmic stuff. There is a central pulse that remains steady throughout the entire song. The pulse is felt in 4s. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. The strongest, most emphasized beat in this pulse is the first one followed by the third. So it makes sense that that the chords would change on those beats. Well, as per the nature of this video, let's mess with that expectation. Here's what it sounds like if the chords change on the 2nd and 4th beat, essentially pushing them back 1 beat. Honestly, that sounds pretty cool. I don't think I would like to hear that for an entire song, but for one section that would be an interesting change that would perk up the ear. While we're on the subject of rhythm, let's see what the drummer's up to. The hi-hat is playing a steady stream of 2 hits on every beat, while the kick and snare alternate beats. The snare is being hit on the 2nd and 4th beat, while the kick is being played on the 1st and 3rd. This is about as typical of a pattern as we'll find. So what would happen if we switched around the placement of the kick and snare? Playing like that on most gigs will get you fired. Why is it so horrible, you ask? Well, it's due to the nature of the rhythm itself. I mentioned earlier that the 1st and 3rd beats are the part of the meter that are the strongest. They naturally carry the most musical weight. Now, my snare drum is the most pronounced and obvious drum sound, so wouldn't it make sense to put it on those heavy beats? Well, by putting it on the weaker beats, we create syncopation, emphasizing parts of the bar that aren't normally emphasized. In doing so, we make it seem like the music has forward motion. When the snare is on the 1 and the 3, those beats become too heavy and nothing propels us through those weaker beats. The kick drum, on the other hand, has another role. Much like the bass guitar, it grounds the music without standing in the spotlight. By putting that on the naturally heavy beats, our music feels strong and sturdy. It's also quite common to put the kick drum on all 4 beats, 1, 2, 3, and 4. In conclusion, the expectations we looked at today are obviously there for a reason. I deviated drastically from them and it didn't sound all that good. However, these are some of the more concrete guidelines. There are a lot of more lenient expectations you can do some great stuff with by not playing into. By understanding music theory, you can unlock a lot of these new tools. If you're interested in that, I'll put up some links in the description. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Content like this is made possible by the people who support me through my Patreon program. So to all of you, an especially big thank you. I've got monthly giveaways as well as a number of other unique rewards offered through that program, so please consider hitting that link over there and checking it out. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button. I've got 2 new videos every week coming out Mondays and Thursdays. Until next time, I'm Samurai Guitarist, and I will see you again soon.